Hi, it's Jack, and this is the podcast version of this episode. If you want to read the words as they're being analysed, then if you're on Spotify, you can become a subscriber of this channel or head over to the YouTube channel. And in both platforms, you can also sign up to get exclusive episodes and early access to the regular weekly episodes too. When Virginia Giuffre posted an update on Instagram, the headline screamed that she'd been involved in a serious car crash and had just 4 days to live. Only it wasn't totally true. Could we have told that from analysing her update, and what was her motivation behind it? Let's dive in. Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And what I do here is different from anywhere else because I strip away everything apart from the words that are said, using my process of statement investigation to give you the key to seeing deception, the truth, and the motivations of a person. Now, before I go on, if you are looking for something that calls out Virginia as a low-life liar, hit skip now. This episode is about something different because I'm going to show you how we could have detected that the update she posted wasn't true, why you should trust your gut instinct, and also look at what motivated this post from Virginia. Inside this, I'm going to look at the impression that we get from the words versus the reality. So what do you take when you read the update versus what do the words really say? That's what we're going to look at as we look at Virginia's update. So let's look at the full post first of all. We'll just read it word for word. This year has been the worst start to a new year, but I won't bore anyone with the details, but I think it important to note that when a school bus driver comes at you driving 110 kilometres as we were slowing for a turn, that no matter what your car is made of, it might as well be a tin can. I've gone into kidney renal failure. They've given me 4 days to live, transferring me to a specialist hospital in urology. I'm ready to go, just not until I see my babies one last time. But you know what they say about wishes? Shh in one hand and wish in the other, and I guarantee this is going to be shh at the end of the day. Thank you all for being the wonderful people of the world and for being a great part of my life. God bless you all, Virginia. Now let's just break that down first of all in terms of what impression did you get when you first saw that? If that's the first time you first read it, or if you saw it at the time, what impression did you get? Because the headline said Virginia Giuffre has been involved in a serious car crash and has, as a result, been given 4 days to live due to kidney renal failure. Only it's really not as simple as that. Now, the most important reaction I saw from that was people saying, this doesn't add up, this doesn't sound true, this doesn't feel true. Now, I saw some things that pointed out to the picture that went with it, and she was wearing jewellery and didn't really look like she was in a hospital hooked up to machines. But I just saw other people go, this just doesn't feel right. That's your gut instinct. That is put there to protect us. And I believe that one of the things we do is when someone's words don't really add up, we might not have the labels to put on it as to why it doesn't sound right, why it doesn't feel right to us, but it does all add up in our mind to just a warning sign. Don't believe this, there's more going on. What we're going to do now is go through those words. I'm going to show you some of the things that you may well have picked up on subconsciously. So it starts with, this year has been the worst start to a new year, but I won't bore anyone with the details, but I think it important to note that when a school bus driver comes at you driving 110 kilometres as we were slowing for a turn, no matter what your car is made of, it might as well be a tin can. Now, bear in mind that she is announcing she has 4 days to live in this post. What a very strange way to start it. It's not, I have some sad news for you, and putting the biggest priority I would think that would be on that person at the time, which is the shortness of the amount of time they have to live. Instead, we get context setting. We get an explanation really for why things are the way they are. It's a very strange way to start the post and to have the priority much, much further down what is said. So what's going on? Well, she says this year has been the worst start to a new year. Now that's interesting because for someone who thinks that they are going to not see the year out, they're saying they've got 4 days to go. So that would mean that they are going to depart this world round about the beginning of April. Talking about the start to the year is interesting because if you talk about the start of the year, then that implies that there is a middle and an end to the year as well. Very often we'll hear people say it's been a rubbish start to the year, but I'm hoping things will pick up, or it's been a rubbish start to the year, I hope it doesn't carry on in this mode. When we talk about the start to something, implied in that is that there is a middle and an end to it as well. But she has no middle and end to the year, in her words. So why talk about the start to it? Why not just this has been a rubbish year because it's been a rubbish start or a rubbish beginning of the year, and I'm not going to be here much longer, so it's just been a rubbish year. So that's a very intriguing start to it. Then there are a couple of buts. Now, what comes after a but is more important than what came before it. But I won't bore anyone with the details, but I think it important to note. So we've got a couple of buts going on there, which is like, that's not that important. I've got more to say, which is I won't bore anyone with the details. I've got something else to say, which is I think it important to note. So 2 buts there. That next line there, but I won't bore anyone with the details. Very interesting. Number one, I'm thinking, is there a lack of self-esteem going on here that you think the details of your life will be boring for people? That's potentially what is happening here. And we see with the worst start to the new year, that's implying her mood is gloomy and down because in all her life, this has been the worst start to a year. Well, anyone who feels that will be a bit gloomy and down. And then there's a lack of self-esteem there with I won't bore anyone with the details. Also saying there, I'm hiding something. I'm not going to tell you all that's going on there. It's implicit in the words. I'm not saying hiding something is a bad thing or a good thing. All I'm saying is what we're being told here in her words is she is not giving us the full story. She flags it up and says, I won't bore anyone with the details. Then she says, I think it important to note. Now, first of all, there's a bit of vagueness here. I think. So maybe it's not, again, maybe this is a lack of self-esteem, not I've got something very important to say. It's just, I think I've got something important to note. So I think I've got a lack of self-esteem coming through there. There's certainly a bit of vagueness there. And in what follows, like, it is obviously very important to note that if you're involved in a serious car crash, it's a serious thing. But she just has that vagueness of, I think it important to note. And also, what follows is really important. What she's saying there is there's been a car crash at high speed and the car might as well have been made out of a tin can, i.e. I was not protected in this. Important to note sounds kind of casual. You know, I think it's important to note that this is happening there. So look, we're 3 lines into this post and I'm spotting lots strange. When a school bus driver comes at you driving 110 kilometres, I'm sure she means 110 kilometres per hour. Now notice, it's not a school bus that came at her. It's a school bus driver. Interesting. It's not the bus that caused the problem. It's the driver of the bus that caused the problem. Both can be true, by the way. If the driver was negligent, if the driver was even deliberately running at them, then the driver would be at fault. And quite often we see inanimate objects blamed for things like car crashes when actually it's the driver of the car that happened. Interesting that she has picked up on that. And she says the school bus driver did this. She's made it personal. She's made it about someone. But then it all gets a little bit strange because it's not a school bus driver came at me driving at 110 kilometers per hour. It comes at you. So this is about you and not about Virginia. When a school bus driver comes at you driving 110 kilometers per hour, and she also uses that later on when she says, no matter what your car is made of, it might as well be a tin can. So in this, at the very least, we have some distance there of saying that you could be the one that is targeted by the school bus driver. Your car, you need to worry about what your car is made of. What we do have right in the middle of that is something that's an indication that more than one person was in this car, because it's as we were slowing for a turn. So the bus driver was coming at 2 people in this car. We were slowing for a turn. So just an indication there of a bit more context of what was happening. She doesn't say explicitly, I was with someone, someone was with me. It's we were slowing for the turn. But listen, does she say what happened? Because she doesn't say explicitly, I was involved in a car crash. Just look through it again. I think it's important to note that when a school bus driver comes at you driving 110 kilometres as we were slowing for a turn, no matter what your car is made of, it might as well be a tin can. There is nothing in her words that says she was involved in a car accident with a school bus. The bus was driving 110 kilometres and her car might as well have been a tin can because there was a lot of damage, maybe even a lot of effect to her from the magnitude of this accident. She doesn't say the accident actually happened. It's abstract. She's talking in general about something that could happen, not something that did happen. Also, she's very low on the repercussions of the accident. She doesn't say she was in an accident and got severely injured in the accident or it caused medical complications or anything like that, because she talks about what could happen to you, but in very abstract terms again. Your car might as well be a tin can. Now, when I talk about, what is the impression we get? The impression we get is she was in an accident and her car was mangled. But her words do not say that. And we should give everyone the benefit of not assuming what has happened from their words, but actually paying attention to what it is they say. What that does is it helps us uncover deception, which is probably what's happening in this case, that the accident is not as severe as she made it out to be, which is why she cannot put herself truthfully in her words there, but puts you there in this theoretical scenario. It also helps us out when we're talking to someone and we assume what they mean and we assume there's some hidden meaning behind their words. Actually, if we just listen to what they said in their words, that can be very helpful getting on there. So listen, first paragraph, very interesting beginning to it, not leading with what I would consider the priority of the message, which is 4 days to live, which would be anyone's priority to the message, and also an almost mythical car crash there that she describes, but certainly takes no ownership of it there. That's just paragraph number 1. Let's go on and look at paragraph number 2. She says, I've gone into kidney renal failure. They've given me 4 days to live, transferring me to a specialist hospital in urology. Now, all of a sudden, Virginia is at the centre of things, which suggests to me this is a bit more of her real experience coming through. So I could quite believe that she has gone into kidney renal failure because she owns it with the word I. I've gone into kidney renal failure is what she says. So she is owning that. So I'm more tempted to believe that she has gone into kidney renal failure. They've given me 4 days to live. So again, she's owning that. They've given me 4 days to live. Although they've given me 4 days to live is very much more about a diagnosis, if you like, than a fact. So it's not that I've got 4 days to live. I've got merely 4 days to live. I've only got 4 days to live. It's they've given me 4 days to live. So this is more about the diagnosis or what she's been told. What I wonder if what's happened there is there's some sort of qualification there. They've given me 4 days to live if I don't get a kidney transplant, if I don't get dialysis, or if I don't respond well to the drugs or something like that. I do wonder if there is more to that there, which is not why she's saying explicitly, I've got 4 days to live, but they've given me 4 days to live. Transferring me, so again, she is at the center of this, transferring me. She's using personal pronouns here, which was a world away from when she described the accident, transferring me to a specialist hospital in urology. Now, you'll notice in all of this, these are all things happening to Virginia almost from observed. So I've gone into kidney renal failure. I've gone into, it's not my kidneys have failed or my kidneys have gone into renal failure. It's I've gone into kidney renal failure. She still does have I there. So this is personal. I do think this is possible. But then it's things that happen. They've given me 4 days to live, transferring me to a specialist hospital in urology. Now, you'll notice she doesn't say how she's gone into kidney renal failure. She doesn't say it's as a result of the accident that this has happened. She just states it as a fact without any context around it at all. And she doesn't say why they're transferring her to a specialist hospital in urology at all, what that is going to achieve, why that has happened, which again is interesting. Again, I feel like she's holding something back from us here. Also, just kind of logically to me was if you've got 4 days to live, what's the point in a specialist? A specialist would be there to give you a better diagnosis, better outlook, or something like that. And instead, we've just got this vague description of transferring me to a specialist hospital in urology. For what? Again, this is why I think that 4 days to live is part of the story, but it could be, like I said, 4 days to live without dialysis or without a transplant or without the drugs kicking in, or something like that. And this specialist is going to help with all of that. Second paragraph, and I see a lot more truth coming through here. The car crash, I think, is constructed and not a truthful, faithful retelling of events. This, I think, has a little bit more truth in there because she's owning this suddenly with a lot of use of I and me. Certainly, we haven't seen a lot of emotion so far, which is what we would expect a little bit more of from someone who's been given 4 days to live. Let's look at the next paragraph, which says, I'm ready to go, just not until I see my babies one last time. But you know what they say about wishes, and she censors herself by saying shit in one hand, wish in the other, and I guarantee it's still going to be at the end of the day. So I'm ready to go, just not until I see my babies one last time. Actually, that means I'm not ready to go. There is more I want to do. I want to see my babies one last time. But there's kind of the dramatic start of it is, I'm ready to go. Well, actually, I'm not ready to go. I want to see my babies one last time. And then I said at the very beginning that we had some gloominess there at the start of it by saying it's been a rubbish start to the year, a crappy start to the year. And here we have someone very obviously looking on the pessimistic side of life. You know what they say about wishes, in one hand and wish in the other, and I guarantee it's going to be at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, it's going to be crap, is what she's saying there. So this is, again, very, very gloomy. I think there's not a lot of happiness coming through here. And if we talk about emotions, it's an emotion of extreme pessimism, extreme sadness, extreme gloominess coming through here in Virginia's post. Also, I'm ready to go. She doesn't say where. It's a euphemism, I know, for I'm ready to die. But she doesn't say that. She just says, I'm ready to go. It comes off the back, by the way, of the comment about being transferred to the specialist. It could be, I'm ready to go there. I'm ready to go and see the specialist. Maybe I've got some real hard work to do, or, you know, it's not going to be kind and nice. But she doesn't quite say where she's ready to go. Once more, just another little bit of distance in this statement. She finishes it off by saying, thank you all for being the wonderful people of the world and for being a great part of my life. God bless you all. Kiss, kiss, Virginia. So we have thank you all for being wonderful people of the world. That's the first thing she mentions, is this very generic thing. It's a nice sentiment. Thank you for being wonderful people of the world. But this is almost globally. This is being announced to absolutely everyone in the world. Thank you for being wonderful people in the world and for being a great part of my life, which is much smaller and much more personal to her as well. Thank you for being a great part of my life. A strange ordering that everyone is thanked before those people who have been a great part in her life there. So, yeah, very interesting. And that is all the statement that is there. So what else do I notice in that? It's passive, right? No action on her part. She is not telling us about her actions, about what she's doing at all. It's very, very passive. Things have happened to Virginia, but she's not telling us any things that she has done. Why is that? Is this low self-esteem again? Does she think by talking about herself she's going to bore us? Or is she hiding some of her own actions here? Does she not want to talk about herself and what has gone on with her? It could be that as well. Also, when I look at a statement, I always look and go, what is missing? So outside of the actions that Virginia has done and the steps that she has taken, any action on herself as well, there is the we. Remember, there was the we in the car, and she doesn't talk about the other person that was in the car with her in any way whatsoever. Were they seriously injured? Because the car might as well have been a tin can. She doesn't mention that. What do you think? I mean, that is interesting. She doesn't say, thankfully, this person is all right, or her thoughts about this person because they're not all right. She doesn't mention the other person in the car at all. So that's Virginia's statement. What have I got on that? Well, I asked at the start, number one, could we have said at the time that it wasn't true, or the impression that people got was not the reality? For sure. The lack of ownership around that car crash, the fact it was talked about in general, said to me that when we looked at that, we could have gone, yeah, this one doesn't add up for me. This is not a truthful telling of events. Also, there was a little bit missing around the medical diagnosis and so on. And the construction of it said to me, there's something more going on here. Do you see what I mean about how your gut instinct can cut in and go, this doesn't sound true? And when you actually look at all the data points, whether it is that everyone that said this doesn't ring true picked up on one or two of the data points and went, or people picked up on the magnitude of data points, the gut instinct should have been believed from those people that said, this doesn't add up. I counted at least 17 data points in 150 words in that Instagram post that would have led me to go, there is more to this than is being said. I think the big thing for me, though, is What was the motivation behind this post? To look for motivation, what are the repeated themes that come up across the post? That will tend to reveal someone's motivation and their priorities inside their head. And for me, it's that thing of low mood. Whatever kicked the year off, I think, is the motivation for that post, whether that is driving the low mood or whether that she's trying to get some sort of reaction as a result of some of these crappy things that have happened to her this year. I think that was the motivation for making that post, potentially because she mentions that she wants to see her babies. This is more about the fact that there is something going on with her children there. What do you think? Do let me know in the comments if you can on this platform, or you can find all the links in the show notes to contact me on social media. What do you think about Virginia Giuffre's post? NeverAtruerWord.com is the website. There you can find a whole load more podcasts breaking down the words that people choose to use, just to see if they're telling the truth, to see what they're hiding, to see what their motivations are as well. You can also check them out on video too. NeverAtruerWord.com. And we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.